All right. So basically, what I've been doing is coming up with a way to chew on um, their hierarchy files and their task definition files, and basically been adding in my own fields into here for parallel authoring. Okay. Um, so yeah, they got so basically they got two files. One is a hierarchy. So it kind of lets you know where everything is. So every task has its own ID, right? And there can be embedded tasks within tasks. Um, so the nomenclator I came up with for this, and I might change it just a little bit, but basically there we have procedures, and those are encompassed of tasks, and tasks can have tasks within them. Uh, I eventually I tried to do something like tasks, instructions, and all this. Um, yeah, yeah, because I think a procedure kind of infers more than one thing to do. And a task can be one thing, and it can be broken into subtasks. I'm still not completely happy with it, but I do believe that there's going to be other metadata we may have in a procedure that wouldn't be in a task right now. And so that's basically, yeah, they're very similar, um, but there's some top level uh, things on there. Um, so let me put that way because that's just gonna be confusing as fuck. So yeah, then there's a task definition. So this is kind of what we got, um, and I'll break. Well, I'll talk about kind of the task itself. So right now, the way the structure currently looks is every task has an ID. You have a title, a description, the personnel required for it, a list of tools that are required for it, uh, an action that you're doing, and then a location. Um, I put this in here that eventually I think we're going to procedurally generate this stuff, but for right now, I think it's also okay to hard code it. Um, I've given us kind of different guidance methods of stuff we may be doing. So the way I did the original parallel author, well, let me pause. Everything I said makes sense so far? Okay. So I think we're going to have different levels of guidances. So, initially I was like, yeah, we're just going to do it to where we're using the maps. But, having thought about it for a little bit, I think there's also value in iteration. So it may be that someone's able to create a procedure using markers to basically, kind of dropping pins on where stuff needs to happen. And then from there, iterating on it to where it could use a schema map if we ever got to that, or it may be just that may be good enough for just using pins for right now. But I don't want to artificially, yeah. Um, the model guidance is basically what I used for my experimentation that I did a year or two ago. Um, and uh, that's basically where I said, okay, this specific part, in the hierarchy is going to do this action, right? So I would specifically label it. And so I'm still allowing for that to happen. Not using that right now, but that may happen. Uh, Probably where this will also go in the future. Well, I'll pause right there. Uh, we have camera transforms. So this is where the position of the camera is going to be. I have this as a list because on some of them we like to stuff a lot of tasks into one step, or one, a lot of independent things into one task. So like an example is removing 18 rivets or fasteners on a cover to then take it off. Well, that's 18 individual things that need to be done, right? So I'm putting it as a list because there may be value in switching the camera angle, but you're still on the same step, if that makes sense. And I'm going to use step and task interchangeably. There's no difference. It's just task is how we're officially labeling this. Yeah, no, nope. So, and that's exactly something I've been trying to get down to the bottom base level of their pub. I'm still not there yet. One, because I don't have access, but what we're doing right now allows us basically to do this because we can have children tasks within tasks. So any amount of recursion necessary, we can do. So so yeah, no, I understand that, and basically that could be another field in here if we need that to be, where there's not a natural, in some things it doesn't matter what order you do them in. You just need to do all of them. And some things it does matter. So if you change if you're taking off or tightening, I, yeah, yeah, got you. I understand what you're saying. Um, I, I don't know yet. What I can say is I don't see any reason we couldn't support that with with how we're constructing this. Which is why, yeah, no, I totally get it. No, yeah. And that's why I'm trying to run this thing through its paces as much as I can, trying to identify better ways to do shit. Then you have lists of notices. Notices can be notes, warnings, and cautions for a single step. You have visuals. This is how they've done it. I'm not sure what to do about this yet. Maybe a list. Eventually, what we do, a list of visuals. Let's see what does this field look like? Yeah, so right now it's just, hey, what's the name of it? What's the type of navigation? Like, I don't know. Like, we'll see. It's basically a placeholder for right now, and I'm not really using it, but it is in the data structure if we need to use it. And we can also change this. So, uh, and I've come up with kind of a way to write this in a two-string method just for debugging purposes. So in a task, it's effectively the same thing, right? Like, well, actually, I think we were doing the task. Yeah. So the two are really close together. Um, just one semblance here. So like when we're talking about the procedure, I think what we want is a number of personnel in each step. And basically what you would do is you would iterate through the entire procedure, all the different tasks, and then you'd come up with a list, in this case, of all the tools that you need. So like if you do like uh, um, an IKEA assembly, it shows you all the tools you need up front, right? And all the different people that you need or whatever. That's something you should be able to do by iterating and going through all the tasks, pulling that information, aggregating it, and then being able to display it. So I think the procedure is kind of a natural placeholder for that. Don't have a lot of that done yet, but that's kind of the intent for that. Any questions so far? Make sense? Oh, totally get it. Yeah, makes sense. So all right, let me play this. So right now I've got I've got my own kind of editor set up here with all this shit. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm able to take in that hierarchy. Put this here in a second. Okay, so here's it in 2D. Here it is in kind of the video format. So what I'm doing is I have um, my hierarchy file and I have my detailed instruction file as text assets. So I tried to break this out as much as possible, cueing my inner Michael. The core and all this stuff, I think we'll eventually have as our own uh, uh, assembly files. I forget the name of them right now. Uh, as Not just assembly, yeah, in assembly definitions, but basically compile them into library. Yeah, DLLs. All right. So I tried to, because we talked about that a little bit. That's why I think I want to do, just so that way we're not. I want us to keep all the things that we're making for ourselves and paying for ourselves. We shouldn't just be giving everything to the gov. Um, just because, right? So here's the current procedure, and basically, you know, so I've tried to do this pretty nice. You'll just you'll drag in the specific files you want for the hierarchy and detailed, and then it'll pull it in and parse it. The great thing is it'll save back to these files as well. So I'm happy with at least some of how I've done this to get it started. So it'll populate the procedure. Um, and so right now I'm able to navigate it using left and right. So for each of these, I was able, I'm capturing the camera transform for all this. This is the overview, sorry. Right, so this tells you, okay, this is the exact, camera transform I want you to be in. Here's the position, here's the rotation. And then it'll convert it like this. So this is serializable. And then, I put methods in to this data structure to be able to convert it into Unity's stuff. Okay. Um, so now I'm hitting, right and left to go across the procedure. So here's markers for this. Actually, let me go to the estate. So this has the procedure loader, what I have top has all of them. And this just kind of contains all the raw information for it. The state manager is what is actually kind of hopefully apparent, keeping track of the state of it, and is managing that. So the way I've done that, and so I've learned from what I did with parallel authoring to make this as flexible as possible, is that, not procedure builder, okay, state manager, is basically I've come up with using subscription post sub model here to where, if you subscribe to it, then you'll get, dude, doing some pub sub, man. And I love like I love how clean this file is, right? Like basically, for 2D, for AR, for whatever, all you gotta do is subscribe to that, and then you're gonna get the newest task, right? Like I had things way too connected last time, and it was just a pain in the ass to change your thing. This should be a lot easier with that. So like, for example, with the video reader, I'm subscribing to that, and this shit's fucked up a little bit. So the slurp on here is definitely not, there's something jacked up with it. And we'll talk about that later. But basically it handles the task. So you get the new task, every time the state changes, and then you tell it what you're going to be doing with it, right? So I feel it's pretty straightforward. I try to make it straightforward as examples for you guys, so that way you should. I'm using as many qualifiers as possible here, be able to do that. So here's the 2D version or a 2D implementation of it, right? Where you get the task, and now basically I'm just saying, okay, what do I want to do with all these different things? How do I want to handle that in order to publish it this way? So depending on what tool right now is being used, that one will be highlighted. So it kind of gives you an idea for instantiation and all that fun stuff. Um, all right, let me pause there because I've been talking for a bit. What any Yes, this is basically for this one, this is the 2D camera, right? So you got a 2D let's see, let me go default. Right. So I could have a 2D implementation like this, where it's just telling you exactly uh what you want to do, right? Like this is the pub right now. And I'll talk about that here in a second. Or what I could do, if we do our 2D our 2.5D implementation, cool. Now we got a different way to do this, right? And all of it's parsing the same exact information, right? This is why I love parallel authoring. Um, so it makes sense. So and eventually I'm going to put an audio parser in this. So if we want to do an application that can do audio, can do all this, you're just, okay, you're processing the data structure uh, for whatever you. Yeah, I would say mostly it's taking my lessons learned from the previous implementation. Um, and I've done that, and there's fields I've added in the data structure to accommodate what Nywick has done so far, just because it should be able to be read by their parser as we kind of edit it. And also, I don't have a better idea yet for some of this stuff, but it kind of uh, I'm expecting this to change. Like this, the way I'm doing it right here, I expect us to do a better implementation of, right? But this shows what it can do without really much work, because all the data is structured, right? So we can really get Gucci with this, some real polish in the end if we want to. Um, no, yeah, so I talked to him about that. Yeah, no, so we no, we have flexibility with that. So, but yeah, we're going to put more thought into it than they are, frankly. Um, and so they're basically okay with it, right? Like, if we need to change stuff around to make it work better, I think a lot of it is, they just thought what they needed to do. Like, so like the visual cue on this is top forward of fuselage for highlight, true, right? Like they don't know really what to put. Ultimately, like what this probably should be is for schema map guidance. Like, so here's an example of door 4. So door 4 is this schema, this version, this field, this ID. If you do that, and we can, have it shown up on here exactly where that is, right? Because we have the map for that, so we can illuminate it. Does that make sense? Uh, yeah. So this is the original, yeah, original items, right? And so like each one of these, codes or whatever is a specific task. and there's like recursion in here. So removal door for is this like it's just a bunch of shit like that. Let me see. All right, so like here's door four. So here's another pub specifically for door four, like the one we were just saying. Here are the tools required for it. It says, remove door fasteners and doors, and I'm pretty sure that this like has uh like more like stuff like it could be even further recursion on here. So I'm not in love with a lot of how they've done this. Uh, and they being the Navy who's printed all this shit. Like I don't like it, but it's what they have. So it's what they have right now. And I'll give you my thoughts and vision for this in a little bit. Um, but yeah, that's effectively that's the original source data. Uh, this this code, well the items is controlled for distro D, if that's what you mean by controlled. So contractors and guppies. Oh yeah, yeah. You should have it, but I'll give it to you as well. Well, I think so. Well, part of this has to do with kind of what I want us to do in general. So now that you guys have laptops, I really want us to be really cognizant of what is on that computer. Okay. So we gotta be careful to make sure HM stuff stays in HM. So everything we're doing here, right? This is all HM. There's things we're going to take out of here and put into the government repository. That needs to be handled differently, right? Um, so the pubs and everything can go in the different files, different resource file for whatever that application is. So when you guys create that, it may be a separate project. I know it's going to be a pain in the ass, but it's kind of necessary that we have to have a layer. Uh, there has to be a little bit of an air gap right now until we can come up with something procedural between this project and the Navy's project. Okay. What I'm seeing, for the requirements here. But parallel author. So in some respect, right? So what? So I'll show you what the exact kind of requirements are that we're on for. Okay. So develop and maintain computer program for mixed reality shall deliver all source and executable code to the government. So that's one. So that's why I want to make sure that uh, it gets intermixed as little as possible. Uh, this is yeah, right. So that's why. Right. The expectation is if you work on it for them, then uh, if you're getting paid for it, then they should be getting the code. The and I totally understand that. The nuance here is we already have code pre-existing that those hours are going to be shaped, kind of giving them the code that they can use out of that in a way that they can use it, right? So that's where the DLLs and all that kind of come into is yes, you're working on the DLLs, the conversion, all that into DLLs. So that's what they get. Other stuff, when we're talking about the readers, right? So when we talk about, you know, they're like, here's a good example. So here would be core. This would be stuff that we own, what we have, because I've made this and I'm not getting paid by them, right? So this is HM uh, stuff. Now, basically what these two files do, right, is basically just be able to read this file and this file, right? And put that and basically be able to kind of create and manage these data structures, right? That's not what they're asking for, right? What they're asking for, let me get in here, talk to Mary. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Create and maintain algorithm scripts to support engineering optimization, mixed reality. Okay, that's not it. All right, develop metadata texture layers to provide queryable information on 3D models linked to specific locations on there. Right, so that to me is the maps themselves, not how the maps are created. Right, so it's if we, you know, because we worked on this several months before the project even started. Right, all that code base of how that metadata magic works is not part of this. Coming up with a way to read it and do something with it, the reader part, that's why I'm considering part of what Restore needs. Okay. Um, the automatic, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. And so that's, you know, yes, to your question. Right. But as long as, the more that we can reduce that area, the better. Right. So if it comes down to one or two things, like that's easier for me to take and negotiate and talk to the government than if there's like just fucking shit intermingled all over the place. Right. Um, so that's kind of like the standing guidance for. So yeah, so using images and corrosion data to texture 3D model detected corrosion. Right. So uh, yeah, so that's kind of there. So the implementation for this standardized forms of models, metadata, and using contextual information. Um, yeah, so this is basically going to be able to take, and I haven't implemented this yet, right? But basically, I got to come up with a quantitative quality assurance in here, some fields in there. And then we had to be able to do something and then take that information and then populate those different fields. But I don't think it's even asking for that. It's a generation filling standardized forms. Yeah. So right now this can be done like I honestly don't. Yeah. Yes. And so what the Navy has right now, yeah, actually, I'll do this. Let me message. Okay. So the fuck is this? Okay, so here's kind of stuff. So basically, in a high level, being able to take that information and pre-populate this information in here. So this is the work order form, um, or work action form. Wow, I forget right now. Uh, but we should be able to populate damn near all of this stuff, right? Because we should have it. So that's kind of what. No, so right now, what that's going to be different. Uh, Basically, I want to be able, you know, this would require working with the PMA right now that manages and knows this shit. Uh, I don't feel the net like we're not there yet to do that. What we can do is so it's kind of what I think we should do for the 2D version of this for the documentation is basically duplicate like create this form uh, and then procedurally fill out, right? Have it the exact same, have it look exactly the same, right? Leave no gap in imagination for those filling out requirements of yes, hey, look, we're touching this or picking up code. Look, we've procedurally generated 10 different maps using the same exact form and look that we have right now. Is it connected to the actual system though? No, not right now, but we've shown we can do it, right? So we don't know what the API of this thing looks like, but we can show we can do exactly what's on here, right? Right. So that is the requirement right now, right? Uh, and if like it doesn't say that in there, right? Unless they come up with a better idea, which I'm pretty sure I got a good idea of how to get this implemented so that way the Navy will buy off on it, is if you do this and you have it all like again already look like exactly what's happening, like that they do like it's gonna blow their mind, right? Because you're not, generating a JSON file. If they look at a JSON file, they're not gonna know what the fuck they're looking at, right? But if you populate that JSON file into something that they know and are used to already, and you show them that with one touch it procedurally generates, that's gonna be magic to them. Then we can do other things with it. I'm going to develop a different way to read it and show it on the 3D model, right? And then that's going to be a program that we can sell, right? So they're helping to do an initial implementation of being able to read the information. I'm going to create uh, I'm going to create one to be able to read it for us to start getting funding for it. The same thing I want to do with Reader. So you notice that nowhere in here talks about Reader. Basically, what they're doing. Let's see. Well, let me pause. Any initial questions on this so far? Okay. Let's see. All right. So I got a pretty good video of them. They gave me like a 6-minute video with some video clips. I plan on really doing some editing and making a nice little video here. So imagine having the F-18 with all the different layers back here, right? Like you have some cool effects. This is what I'm going to do as I'm bored here. Uh, but like, I'll show you kind of what their interface looks like right now. Let's see. So some nice images here that they've got that we can show what this would look like. Okay, so here we go. So not too bad alignment on this for that model, right? So this is what their current application looks like. So imagine this data structure, right? And what they're doing with it right now is this. This is their level of imagination. And they have a bunch of limitations with it, right? Like they don't have all their developers working on it and all that shit. I'm willing for us to pay for this on our own because I know how valuable it's going to be, right? Like this is it's a okay implementation because it gets people the idea, right? But you can do so much more with this, right? Like, yeah, this is exactly where you should go, right? And right now it's a direct line. They want us to be able to where we can um uh where they do all this kind of wayfinding and all this stuff. So we'll make that application better, and the good pieces in there we'll take uh and incorporate into our code uh and iterate on them. But in the end, ours should look flipping awesome. Um, right now. Yeah. Well, I think the separation that makes sense is right now, what we're doing is, we've broken out TaskReader, we got Painter, we got Analysis, and then we have our core. I think eventually what happens is this becomes its own application, this does its own application, this becomes its own application, and they all share the same common core library with the DLLs. Right. So I don't want to have to. The only reason I'm continually using this is because I need the same reference files for it. But I've tried to air gap this as much as possible. I've brought out the models. They're now in resources, um, resource models. That way, it's shared across the project and everything. But that to me is the logical separation for a lot of this. Is how do I? Yeah, yeah. So that's where I would put it. Yeah. Yeah, I know. So I know we're not there yet. We'll get there. So as you develop the DLLs and everything, we'll come up with a way to procedurally update those DLLs. And then once we have these in different projects, we'll test out that pipeline. So as we update the DLLs, we'll push them and see whether or not that breaks any of our stuff that rely on that same code. Does that make sense? I mean, because the idea is like we want to be able to update if we do update the DLLs in the future, we want to be able to push that to the government stuff. Um, uh, especially, oh yeah, and so yes, and so I've tried to do my best to not just put everything in one folder, right? So I think we've done a decent job of that ahead of time. Where I think we are is, so the painter will end up creating the metadata layers, uh, and TaskReader will take the procedure files and also utilize the metadata layers that Painter creates, or at least has the ability to. Analysis will use data layers and whatever kind of information we uh, create when we're actually doing the walk rounds, and then do analysis of it. The short one is of that's going to be the crappy form I showed earlier. The long-term vision is doing the 3D reader to basically paint on the aircraft where issues are. I'm telling you, like that will be good. That will be really good. Um, yes. So uh, for a lot of as especially as the company starts having more and more internal money, that's money I'm going to be willing to invest for us to work on it internally. Uh, of course, my time is free, or like I bet people for your time, Dylan's time, that stuff, and Ryan's time. That's money I'm trying to build up for their trying to build up money to pay for patent shit coming up that's due this year, this upcoming year. And then I'm reinvesting it, right? Like it needs to be reinvested for us to do really good stuff with it. Okay. So for the 2D parser, so I'm waiting. Well, so I'll switch to the 2D view. My goal, so I'm going to keep working on this, right? And so, there's a bunch of it. There's no requirement for this, but I already have a good sense of what I need to do, or at least I think I do, until I'm told, until something else is more obvious to me. What I plan on doing for our 2D reader is basically recreating this, right? So I could tell people I could put whatever, whatever we want on here, right? And they may not get it, right? They see this, it's a hard logical leap for them to go from there to this. I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I can procedurally generate this, right? Instead of my notes right now being, okay, note it like this, I can generate this, right? I mean, this is all easy shit. This stuff is coming from the procedure, and then I can just procedurally fill this out. If I can replicate this, right? This is the same logic um, uh, as this, right? You show them exactly what they have right now of being able to produce it easily, and then show them you could just do this, which is fine. This is what you want. This is what you're paying for. But now you can also do this, right? I don't think so. Yes. Yeah. So like here's well, so I plan on this being a derivative uh of this, right? So this should be able to be parsed and generate this. I don't see why it could not be, right? What's really interesting is I think is for people to be like, okay, because right now we have a bunch of people who are used to reading pubs, which totally cool, right? What you should be able to do is click on this, right? Well, so like, let me go next step here. Yeah, so here, yeah, where is that? Oh, that's right here, right? Like I can move around, I can see it, whatever. Because or putting on the AR glasses and being shown exactly where to go to get to it. All that is possible because you're using the same underlying data. Okay. Yes, I think so too. Um, as close the well, 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 I think this is all procedurally generated, right? I think they do that today, right? I don't think you have people like I think you probably have some database where you do have a one-to-one mapping of this key to this information. It looks and it just populates it, right? I think that's as far as they haven't thought to do anything else with that, right? So that's why parallel authoring it adds the 3D information into it too, so I can do other things with it. Um, yeah, I agree, right? Well, so yeah, here's a good example. So like you're on door 4, right? Like, having it zoom up here to where like I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to take an iPad out to the plane and be able to run it. So not necessarily requiring AR, right? So you're able to show it, and then yeah, like you're saying, the Harry Potter thing, being able to open this up to where you can mark out the document, mark out the issues, and that information is procedurally generated, and then you go on to the next thing. I'm telling you, that is right. Another way you could do it is, where it says door 6 here, you click on that, and then it opens up the camera view. You align it to where the image is, right? And then it takes it and process it. Like that sort of usability, I think will fucking resonate so well, right? And it's real. I don't think like it's. I'm not gonna say it's not hard, or not that hard. It's straight. It seems straightforward to me, right? I don't see anything overly complicated about this. This is just a time equation. Whether or not we have enough time to to show, and that's why I'm working my ass off trying to show this, uh, because like the clock's ticking, right? And so like right now we have a shot at this, and I want to make sure we fucking hit it out of the goddamn ballpark. Um, the requirements so far really align, to a lot of what we need to accomplish. So we don't have to do a crazy amount of our own internal stuff on this. Like a lot of this is already requirements, and then we're just doing something else with it, right? To that on top, right? To at least showing the proof of concept what I could do, then I can get that bought off on. I'm completely confident of that. Uh, no, so yeah, and so this is unoptimized. So this is just for that specific thing. What I'll probably end up doing is I'll make this its own class, its own library where it looks it up, pulls it out, populates it. Basically, when we're talking about the long-term vision of this, I was showing the IE stuff. This to me is exactly like an IKEA uh, thing, right? Like it's the same sort of logic of, yeah, I have the instructions, I procedurally generate using a style guide, a style guide class to format it in the way that that customer wants it. And then we get into the business of generating style guides for people to procedurally generate their stuff to where their customers have the same exact thing. So there's no change, but you've changed the whole underlying structure to now where we can produce this, right? Like or produce, the different version, not only video, but also coming up with AR. All of it's baked in. I think that will work. Questions? Okay, so I think what I need from you, we can look at the kind of upcoming, Jesus Christ, these upcoming requirements uh, of let's do. I mean, one of them is kind of the navigation portion. What I think I need from you is to be able to get the layer system working in here, right? To where, on the reader or on this, it's able to take the information for the schema map and highlights where exactly that is on here. right? The first step would be just highlighting itself, just showing where that is. So I can just show the schema map uh, instead of using play. Yeah, so like right here, I want to be able to use this field instead of, I'm not using a marker here, but on some of the other ones I am. Let me go to where that's. Okay, Bob. I need to get better with my synchronizing here. But yeah, so like I have the markers right here. I should be able to highlight my, I'm going to do the fasteners, right? So the fasteners are going to be their own field. They're going to be listed. I should be able to just highlight them based off of the schema map IDs. So I'll have to build out some of the underlying logic for some of that. Uh, but the main ones right now are just the panels themselves. Don't worry about anything else other than panels. That's big. Yeah. So well, well, we could treat them differently, right? So and I think that's also one way to show it, right? Like so, for the 2.5D version here, yeah, we'll show exactly where that is. We may just show an outline. I don't know, but we can have different effects, and then we maybe we'll yeah. Yeah, I mean, basically, the only thing different here is that for the 2.5D, the camera is controlled right now by the state machine, although you can do it manually. And then, when we do the AR version, yeah, it's the same thing, except your head is controlling the camera. Let's see. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. But you're viewing the same state, you're viewing the same object, you're just, how do I want to view it? Does that make sense? What I'm looking for? Okay. Yeah, so the AR reader, yeah, the AR reader, yes, right. So we've talked about what is this? Oh, here, okay, here we go. All right. Yeah, so naturally we're behind on these because, fucking government. Um, yeah, so identify panels in view, panel highlights. Yeah, so it's basically, yeah, if we could do step by step highlighting the panels. So, per that step, it'll have what panel needs to be highlighted, taking that information, putting it, highlighting it. Yeah, we're basically we're creating the end application that parses the data structure to show somebody what to do and then collect information and save it. So it's another one of these, right? I could create another field here that says Alutic or Niwik Pacific, which is, well, this is where we're collecting the corrosion information. Yeah, so I'll add an, yeah, whatever structure makes sense. Uh, but yes, like, um, it's gonna be right now. I have 2.5 video, and I'll probably create this after a pull or whatever. Well, why don't I just do it right now? So we got that. So for the 2.5D now, let me break this out. Okay, so the environment needs to go on its own. Canvas needs to go within here. Video parser needs to go within here. And then this needs to be like world or something. Okay. So, all right. I really hate this. Okay. A little bit of artificiality because the video camera here, uh, it's tied to here, but it's basically I have the local position of the object you're rotating around. Um, so, but don't worry about that for right now. Uh, and clean that up. But the idea is like you could take multiple of these and make an end application of it, right? So going back to okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I'll do that for the visuals portion of it. But yes, this is where we're at. Like we have the data structure, and we should be able to generate all this on the fly. So, which one of these do I want to add? Do I want to add the video with the interactive video? Or do I want to interact the interactive video with the generate 2D version? Do I also want to include the audio version of how to parse that data? Right? Like you can do all the above. So that's kind of what this is kind of pointing at. And so far the logic's working. So I appear to not be too wrong right now. At least not wrong. I haven't caught any breaking points yet. Um, but yeah, so I'll do that just wherever there's a schema map right now, infer that is a highlight for right now until I come up with a different marking system. Right now, consider that a 1-to-1. All right. What Let me push this last scene. Oh, and then the last kind of scene I have here. So what I have is I've come up with a task editor. All right, so the idea is to be able to edit the current task. And so kind of how I'm generating procedures right now. So like after I go all here, uh, okay, so like right here, nothing's attached, right? So what I can do is select right side of the thing. So let me switch to my parallel authoring. So this is kind of that horse shit thing you saw earlier. So what I want to be able to do is, okay, now I need to go over to the right side, right? So what I can do, I have two things here. I have a task editor and marker generator. So what I want to be able to do is right now take the camera position and write that to the current task. So right now there's not a camera transform here. Okay. So what I can do is, okay, there we go. So now that camera transform, yeah, and I have it where I can move around the camera now just to sweeten it. But so like eventually we're going to package and sell the editor itself. it's not there yet right now. Right now, it's just as a way to help get this going as kind of iterate on it. That's what this is. And so what I can do if I stop it right now, it won't do anything. But the way to do it is to I can write the task, and basically what that does is that takes it and pushes that changes into the state. Okay, and then I can write the procedure to file, and so then that rewrites uh, this file for the raw information of where everything is. So, next time I play, and it does it anyway to where, uh, right. So, the changes get updated. So if I make a change in the camera, it reloads everything to show you what it looked like, just to validate that, yeah, it's working. And so it's combining all of this stuff from scratch at runtime. So it brings in the hierarchy, it fills it in with the details, right? So if I change around the hierarchy file, then this will update accordingly, right? So it's trying to keep it as flexible as possible. The other thing I have right now is so that's just this really just edits the details. Um, I have I have a file or I have a scene right now for generating uh, the hierarchy. So this is not a good UI right now. Okay, so basically, um, if you have a hierarchy loaded, it will populate this with that procedure. And so what you can do is you can edit it. So you can pick out a task that you want, and you can say, okay, this is who I want to parent it to. Or if there's no parent, then it's going to just pin it at the very end. This is terrible right now, but it's functional, minimally. So, my goal, what I'll probably end up doing is taking this and bringing it into this scene under editor, right? I'm gonna make it to where you can edit the procedure, edit the hierarchy all in kind of one scene here. Uh, do you agree with that? Okay. Yeah. So I'll do that. I'll try to make it into it. It'll probably be its own display. So like display 3 or 4, display 3 may be the AR version, whatever, if you want to test it out. Yeah, and so I want us to try to, like, as we're making the AR thing, try to validate that, yeah, this works on the 2.5D version as you're making the AR, just so that we make sure that, like, yeah, it's all parallel authoring's still working, not broken. It shouldn't break, but uh, should be good. I like it. I like where we're at. I was a week ago, I did not feel good about like where things were. So basically, I rewrote everything, or like because basically they just gave me the detailed instructions first and didn't give me the hierarchy. And then so I was trying to build I built the detailed thing, how to do all that, and then I was trying to figure out how to rework it into hierarchy. I was like, no, let me just start over from scratch here. So I refactored and then I fix it to, well, I need to get better at implementing unit tests, and what I could say is I've never written a unit test in my entire life. Okay. Uh, so just as an example, just to kind of get my mind working here, kind of in that thought process, how would you write unit tests for this? Like what exactly would you unit test? Usually I wait for stuff to break and then fix it. Okay. I take your point. Uh, I got to figure out how to do that. But uh, yes, you're right. Okay. All right. Yeah. Uh, okay. I think, I think it will help me in this is I've designed it hopefully in a way that, I think I've done a pretty good job of encapsulating the different functionalities and not just spaghetti coding everything, I think. I mean, you'll see the kind of the show when you, it'll either be a horror show or okay show when you actually look at this, but I've tried to break out different functionality to where yeah, I'm passing data structures instead of just relying on code calling other code. I've got the pub sub going, shit like that. I'm trying, and I'll try to put the tool game, or the tool game, the unit tests into my game as well. Okay. Okay. I understand. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Do you have Okay, and then for how you format these, you put them at the bottom of the classes, or do you have their own classes that do this? Okay. All right. Sounds good to me.